Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Masonry Strong Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Zach Everett. Zach, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing great. So tell me about your journey and how you got started in the masonry industry.
So I started in safety over 30 years ago. I was just a
Okay.
kid right out of high school, and I didn't really plan to go into safety.
Okay.
It was kind of one of the first or second jobs right out of high school that I hired on for the Chevron refinery fire and safety department,
Okay.
doing their grunt work,
Okay.
like just cleaning, washing a fire truck, or servicing fire extinguishers and things like
Yeah.
that. But it gave me a peek into what the safety career could be like.
Nice.
So for 33 years or so now, been doing safety.
Awesome. And when did you get involved with Brazos Masonry?
That was 22 years ago. I grew up and lived in right around Lake Charles, Louisiana, a little town called Sulphur, Louisiana. Moved over into Port Arthur, Texas, and met my wife. Lived there for about 10 years or so, and then moved to Waco, Texas, where I hired on with Brazos Masonry. So we kind of moved for the hire there.
Gotcha.
So
Awesome. Did you get involved in the MCAA from Brazos, or was it your own finding that you found?
no, it was through Brazos.
Okay.
They were already members for years,
Okay.
It was probably 5 years into my tenure with the company
Yeah.
that Mackie Bounds, that was the owner then. He still is majority owner, but his kids and other people have bought into the business. But Mackie wanted me to be a part of it, so yes, sir, and went into it, and that's been, seems like 16, 17 years
Yeah,
maybe.
it's awesome. And where did your love and passion for safety come from? Was that something you always had, or did it kind of spark right out of high school?
No, it built over time. Even tried to get out of it once or twice, and it
Why is
didn't
that?
work. I just got back trying other. We got involved with some mission work through a particular church for a couple years, so I did that. Came back, and then a safety job opened up, and so I took it. So it just kind of keeps coming back to that career, I guess. Once something's under your feet, kind of like masonry. Once you're in masonry, it's kind of hard to get away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do safety stuff for your community as well? A little bit?
Yeah. I've done some CPR, first aid trainings and things like that. But mainly it's just for the corporate.
That's awesome. Nice. And you're the co-chair for the MCAA Safety Committee. How did you get into that?
Well, that was through Mackie way back when I started coming to the MCAA conventions and so forth. It was not long after that they started a safety committee. I don't know that I was the first one on it, but it was pretty close to being the inception of the safety committee. Then we were dealing with things like upcoming silica issues, going and visiting with OSHA in Washington over wall bracing regulations and things like that. So we've stair-stepped through the years through different topics and different situations.
Yeah, awesome. And I know you know a lot about silica. You've written many articles for us, and you've done some webinars as well. Where does that, passion for getting the knowledge of safety and silica out there come from?
Yeah, it is because of it's an incurable disease, and the mason contractors that are in the MCAA, they care about their people, and so you don't hear about it among our folks. But you rewind many years, and people that worked in quarries or they didn't wet cut silica, they would breathe this free airborne crystalline silica, and when it attaches to your lungs, it remains there. Scar tissue grows over it, and when that's it's microscopic, but when that scar tissue grows over your lung cells, it covers it up. So that little portion of your lung doesn't do its job anymore. And if you continue that over the years, there's so much of that scar tissue built up that it turns into silicosis, and it isn't, because of the scarring of the lungs, it's incurable.
Awesome. Do you do a lot of talking, public speaking about silica, or is it more kind of on the webinar side? And
no, more webinar.
More webinar side. Gotcha.
Yeah. We've done some different associations. Some of the conventions that's been put on in Austin, Texas, in the Central Texas area. OSHA putting together some little safety summits and things like that. But
is it kind of hard to, I guess, word when you talk about safety to the new generation and newcomers in the masonry industry? Is it hard to talk about it without turning them away, or have you found that they don't really get turned away by it? Because it's scary, like you said, it's an incurable disease and it attaches to your lungs.
Yeah, no, I think the younger generations are better with it even than the older generations. Their dads, their granddads, their great granddads, they grew up in an industry where they didn't have all this safety talk, and so it's been a culture change. But new generations coming on, they've heard about safety. They've heard about, hey, we need to. It's the right thing to do to protect your employees. So it's actually a little bit easier in the younger generations, I believe.
That's awesome. Do you talk to a lot of mason contracting companies and help them get the word out there about silica and other safety on the job sites and stuff? Do you talk to and network to other members in the association like that?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. We do some quarterly web calls or Teams meetings or whatever. So yeah, it's always on the forefront. I, as you know, teach when Jerry Painter can't do it.
Yeah.
I'll step in and teach the silica competent person trainings, and so that's the main avenues that I'm talking to people about it. Yeah.
Awesome. And when you're putting a class together, for silica specifically, is there anything that you make sure you need to hit on? And it's how long are the classes usually? About
4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah.
It's a pretty long class. How do you keep the attention of people?
I don't know that I do. So it is difficult. OSHA gives you in their regulations certain things you must cover in the training, and so whether we like it or not, whether we think it's boring or not, we have to cover those things. But we take lots of breaks, and I try to tell some stories, keep it interesting, use a little bit of humor, even though it's a very serious subject. Try to use some humor to keep it alive. Now, I'm sure there's some people that are falling asleep, but we do our best.
Yeah, that's awesome. And working with OSHA, you got to know a lot about everything as far as the guidelines, the safety and stuff like that. What has that been like, coming up? And when you were first started out, kind of was OSHA a little bit intimidating, learning all that, because you have to keep on the same path that they want you to, or else if you stray off, it's not going to be good. Is that a little intimidating?
It's a little intimidating, but I've done it long enough and enough times, met with OSHA enough times, and they're just people. They're people just like you and I.
Of course.
And so I have some relationships with some of the people in the being from the Texas regional office with OSHA, and so they're just people, and I can pick up the phone and call some of them that I know by name. They know me, and that makes it takes a lot of that intimidation factor out of it. Now, if you have an inspection on your job site and they call you into a job trailer and they want to sit down and go over everything, at first especially, that's intimidating.
Yeah.
But done that a few times too, and it's okay. It usually ends well.
Yeah, awesome. And how have you enjoyed networking here? Have you made a lot of new friends? How many mid-years have you gone to?
Mid-years, I've probably been to 10 or 12.
Oh, wow.
I don't make every single year, but we try.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've made great lifelong friends.
That's awesome.
It's good salt of the earth people.
Yeah, awesome. So as far as the masonry industry in general, is that when you were getting into safety, did you ever expect yourself to be in this industry, or was this always something you saw yourself going towards?
No. Didn't even know about the masonry industry. I came up in petrochemical.
Oh wow, okay.
In the refineries in the Port Arthur, Beaumont area. That's where I came up in safety, and then got to know Mackie Bounds, and he offered me a job at Brazos Masonry, and that's how I came over. But I didn't know anything about masonry. I had never laid a brick or a block, either one. So didn't see it coming, but it's been a good landing.
What was that transition like, going from chemical to masonry, as far as safety?
It was difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Today is a whole lot better, but 22 years ago, even the commercial construction safety culture was quite a bit behind the petrochemical safety culture. So I came from And now it stays that way.
Okay.
But they have refineries that blow up. The BP oil spills,
Yeah.
and Deepwater Horizon and all these.
Yeah.
They've taken many lives, and so there's a reason. There's a great emphasis on safety. So yeah, it was a little bit of a culture shock, but we've come along.
Yeah. Do you see any similarities between the two fields that you've been in, or are they vastly different?
No, there's similarities.
Okay.
Protecting people from
Yeah.
the major things: electrocution, struck by, falling objects. Protect your eyes, protect your head, protect your feet. There's a lot of similarities, even though it's a vastly different industry.
Awesome. And outside of work, what do you like to do?
I build things.
What do you build?
Houses.
Oh, nice.
I build several custom homes. I'll buy a home and rehab it.
That's awesome.
And so I go to work and I earn money, and then I come home and I work. For that too. I've been building some cabins and on smaller units.
Yeah.
Lately. So anyway, that's what I do for fun. Is I still build things.
That's awesome. Do you find peace in that?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
That's awesome. A lot of people can't say they don't. They go to where they have two jobs technically. One is a hobby and one is their actual career. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
And is that something you think you're going to continue on in the future?
Yeah. I will.
That's awesome. Yeah. Nice. Do you build masonry houses or?
Yeah. There's always masonry in them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then what the MCAA. What has been your biggest, I guess, you see in your eyes as a benefit of the association?
Well, being able to network and ask a question for an example, a younger mason contractor that is not part of this association, he's feeling everything out on their own.
Yeah.
But with the association, he or she can come in and ask a table full of people, what do y'all do on this?
Yeah.
And get all of their perspectives. It is an invaluable tool. You could read books on business for 20 years and maybe not get out of it what you get out of the MCAA. I mean, it's you have all this wealth of knowledge at your fingertips, and obviously safety is part of that. Someone can come in, a new member can come in and find out what are you doing, what works, what hasn't worked, and you've got real life, not theory, you've got real life practice that you can put to work right now.
With safety in the masonry industry, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen since you started? Is it especially in technology? Because I know we've talked to a lot of construction robotics or just whoever it may be that is involved in safety. They've put a lot of technology into making silica as safe as it can be, and those job sites as safe as they can be. What has that been like for you? Is it easier for you to kind of keep track of? Do you have to know everything about the new technology coming in?
Yeah, the new technology has been good. I've read and looked and watched on some of the robotics, but we haven't utilized it too awful much. The mule, you've heard about that. We tried some of those, but the main thing that technology is really bookkeeping and paperwork. It's so much easier these days to find an app to do something rather than pulling out this clipboard with all the paper and running copies and filling things out by hand. I mean, when you started safety 30 years ago compared to today, I can do a report in 5 minutes compared to what might have taken 30 minutes, 30 years ago. Yeah.
Well, what's been your favorite part about working with in safety in the industry?
Seeing the improvements. I love to see less injuries.
Yeah.
One of my first years, I saw Mason Contractors OSHA 300 report, which lists off all the injuries that he had for 1 year.
Okay.
And there was 54 injuries.
Wow.
Today, it's about 3 to 5 per year.
That's awesome. Wow.
So what I love to see is less people being hurt.
Yeah.
This is about life. Number one, people die in construction, for real.
Yeah.
I mean, people die every day. And if I can feel like I might have prevented a death,
Yeah.
that's a great day.
Absolutely.
And I know that we prevent people from being injured. You
Yeah.
know, and that's someone that can go home and pick up their grandkid. Which if he had a blown disc, he wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get a huge amount of satisfaction
awesome.
from doing safety and
Awesome.
masonry.
Yeah, you sound very passionate about it, which is awesome. And then I believe I read your son works for Brazos.
He does. He does.
What's
yeah.
that been like, seeing him kind of grow in the company a little bit?
It's been great.
It? Yeah.
It started completely accidental.
Really?
The company was growing, and I needed somebody to help me with paperwork.
Yeah.
Actually, I needed to be in the field and on jobs and
Yeah.
doing audits and inspections and helping and training and things like that. But I was finding myself in the office all the time. My son was only 16 years old. And my boss, Mackie, the owner of the company, says, "Hey, what about Justice?" My son's name's Justice.
Oh, nice.
Do you think he would come in and help you? Sure, probably. I'll ask him. He was building pools during the summers, and he said, "Yeah, I'll go work in an office and do paperwork instead of build pools." And so that worked out pretty well. He came in, learned it, and just never left. He came in to help me out part-time with paperwork. He finished high school while working part-time for us. Stayed on full-time, became a safety manager, learned how to inspect, went through all kind of training, and ultimately got a 4-year degree in occupational safety and health. And so he's been with us like 8 years now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so a total accident,
Yeah.
but yeah, it worked out.
So it wasn't something you were expecting him to go into. It just kind of happened. Wow.
No, it just he didn't expect to go into it, but it did.
That's awesome. So when you go onto a job site, like you said, what are you looking for? What are you doing on job sites when you need to go out into the field?
Okay, so for the masonry industry, scaffolds and heavy equipment are probably the most dangerous and the most obvious things to look at. So the first thing I look at, we are usually often putting brick or stone on the outside of a building. So as soon as you drive up, you can still be in the parking lot or on the street, and you can see a scaffold built on the side of the building. So I start looking for handrails and bracing and toe boards and complete board decks, and everybody's got their hard hat on.
Yeah.
And that. So you look at the biggest, what we call imminent danger first. Start with the big things, and then work your way down with some of the more minute things that may not be imminently dangerous to someone's life or health.
Yeah. And then, do you ever catch any workers giving you, or any foreman giving you like the side eye, like, "Oh, great, this guy's here"?
Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
In the past, there was a whole lot of that. But again, that's a culture change. And now, at least our guys, they know even if they don't like everything I say, they know I'm doing it for their best interest. I care about them. I care about their employees. We just want them to go home safe, and they know that, and so they try to, they treat me well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, are there any OSHA changes that have changed within the last couple of years where you really like and something that you really advocate for?
Silica was a change, and I just have to say, OSHA, they have their intentions are great, but they take everybody in the United States and lump them into one box when they come up with a solution to something. And free market is I'm speaking personally. This is my opinion. I like the free market where we can decide the best way to protect our people based on our region, our culture, and often OSHA comes up with good programs, but it may not be good for our company specifically. But if it goes into the reg, we have to follow it.
Yeah.
Anyway, to answer your question a little more directly, right now, the proposed rule that's getting all the headlines is heat. There's a proposed heat rule right now, and it's only under discussion. But when it comes out, it will change the industry. And like I said, for some people that govern themselves well already, they already have a plan, they may change trying to comply with OSHA. They may actually change to a worse plan because they have to if they're doing things right already, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And for other contractors that are not taking care of their people good enough, they need that OSHA reg.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on where you are.
Awesome. Well, as we're wrapping up here, I'll ask you one last question. What does Masonry Strong mean to you?
Masonry Strong. It means that I have a future for my family.
Awesome.
I've got a good career, and I don't see it going anywhere right away.
Beautiful answer. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Zach. I appreciate it. And we will see you guys later.